You're live on Capitol Hill, and you're live in the War Room. It's Wednesday, the 11th of November, the year of our Lord 2020. It's Veterans Day here in the United States, Remembrance Day in the United Kingdom, and Armistice Day throughout the rest of the world. The 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. We commemorated that on the morning show. You're now in episode 493 on War Room Pandemic with over 18 million downloads. We are we're the 18th largest in the United States, 18th largest podcast in the United States, 47th largest in the world, as we just found out today, with also millions of views on the show itself, with the Real America's Voice. That is Dish Channel 219 and Comcast Channel 113. They're also going to be adding more cable platforms. They're the streaming service of the Trump Revolution on the John Fredericks Radio Network, and John Fredericks is down in Georgia right now, securing a station for the group so that we can spend time in Georgia and focus on Georgia for the not just sealing the deal on the president's election on November 3rd, but also the two runoff Senate races in January. That'll be January 5th will be the Senate vote. I think it's the 5th of January in Georgia. The next day, the 6th, will be the first vote of Nancy Pelosi in the House of Representatives for Donald J. Trump. After this vote does not get certified, and talking about certification, we're going to have Greg Manns has been all day in the hearing in Michigan at the state level with Brother Coleman, who was on this morning, and the Great Lakes Justice Institute that had filed an incredible case with great witnesses, eyewitnesses out in Michigan, and they're using those affidavits also in federal court of the campaign has gone to Michigan and filed last night. We're also on Newsmax TV, G News, and GTV, and Mandarin throughout the world. I want to thank all of our distribution partners, get everything. And tomorrow we come out of Greg Manns is back, the hockey player, but we got our high sticking offense for YouTube ends tomorrow, so we're back on YouTube. We're all these offenses we're taking down one at a time. We'll get to that. Okay, we got a packed show today. We got so much to get to. We're getting into geopolitics. We're getting into intelligence. Our primary focus in the special in the afternoon is obviously the election, closing on President Trump's victory on November 3rd. We're going to be in Arizona, we're going to be in Georgia, talking about Michigan, talking about Pennsylvania, talking about numbers, math, and the legal remedies that are going on here. One thing you should know that the opposition is now, we're inside their heads. They're talking about certification, and they understand that the clock is ticking. The clock does not work for them. The clock is ticking. December 6th is coming up upon them. And they're now starting to get worried because President Trump's not backing off this. His supporters are not backing off this. It is happening. I want to bring in now Frank Gaffney. Frank is the founder and co-head of the Committee on the Present Danger and also the chairman emeritus over at the Center for Security Policy. Frank is like a brother to me. We're either inseparable or we're not talking. So it's like my two brothers. I want to bring in Frank Gaffney. Frank, I got to tell you, and this is why I love you. I love you. I love you. One of our people that is one of the people that puts stuff to us and does a great job checking the universe for what is hot and what is important, sent me today and says, I told you should have built this. This is one of the best sites out there. Every legal vote, right, .com, and it turns out that's you and Kevin Friedman and your team. Walk us through this. We're going to try to get it up on the screen. It is a site everybody has to go to. It's absolutely incredible. What's the concept? What are you trying to achieve, and who's in back of it?
It's really a pickup team, Steve. You're familiar with the coalitions that we've built over the years, including the Committee on the Present Danger China. We appreciate your very strong support for that effort, too. This was an idea that occurred, I think, initially to Kevin Freeman, Keith Lewis, Russ Ramsland, two friends from Texas, and others who recognized that there was no vehicle for the American people who have either personally witnessed or been exposed to anecdotal information about fraud, misconduct, or simple errors that are contributing to the lack of integrity in this presidential election of 2020. And what we decided to do was simply begin building a capability to enable those folks to bring that information forward, not just through some tip line that they never heard from again, except maybe dunning them for money, not just to, tell their friends and family about it, but to actually put it into a place where we could move it to those in law enforcement and those in state legislatures who are, in the first case, responsible for conducting investigations of potential criminal activity, and in the second case, for trying to do something to make sure that that kind of improper activity doesn't corrupt the actual will of the American people in those states. And then the other piece of it, Steve, which I think is particularly important, is the platform, everylegalvote.com, is designed to try to help people do something to not only report this kind of information, but to bring their pressure to bear on those state legislators, on ultimately attorneys general and governors, and to try to make sure the Supreme Court understands their sentiments, and in other ways equip them to be part of the solution to the problem here. So we're appreciative of the chance to talk about it, and I really encourage people to take a look at it, both to get a sense of how the story about fraud is developing, and, as I say, to equip them to become part of the solution to that electoral lack of integrity.
Frank, we're going to push this site like crazy. In fact, we're probably going to want to have you or one of the team, Kevin, come on tomorrow, either the morning or probably the afternoon show, and actually walk through it. Kevin Freeman from the Economic War Room.
Great.
Because it's such a powerful site. One of the things it does, and the reason our researchers sent it to us, was it gives you actually a sliding scale that you can see what the electoral college count is kind of right now, but also with fraud and without fraud. It's very powerful to get people engaged. Right. So but I want to ask you, you've been around a long time. How did we get in this mess? How are we in the situation that Trump could get 71 million votes and win a astounding victory? And here we are, we're going to do a hand recount in Georgia. We don't have the Republican establishment down there on point. We got things going on in Arizona where 100,000 Republicans, looks like, didn't vote for the president. How do we? And you got this mess in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, which is controlled by you got a legislature up there controlled by Republicans. How did we get into this situation, and how do we get out?
I think we got into it over time, Steve, and fundamentally, I think it comes down to this, and you know this so well. The Democrats have taken politics and power seriously, and the Republicans have generally not. And as that has been imbued with this further problem, that over time, the Democrats have inexorably moved to the left, and then beyond the left to the Marxist and radical fringe even of the political extreme. When they take seriously politics, what that means is revolution. And what has been building inexorably, and I was just on a call where a serious intelligence briefing was being done about how this has stacked up now to the point where we've seen the dress rehearsal for this color revolution, as it's being called, through the summer and early fall. It continues, by the way, though the press is not acknowledging it because it was bad for the polls for the Democrats, it turned out. But the value to the party, the value to the pursuit of power at all costs was keep those revolutionaries engaged, keep them practicing their violent activities. And, lo and behold, you combine that with a comprehensive effort to use all kinds of techniques, dead people voting, midnight voting dumps, stopping the ballot counts, right on up through cyber manipulation of votes, including 28 states of the union that have their tabulations done in Barcelona, Spain, on servers and computers that are, it seems, at least tied to, if not actually under the control of, George Soros. what could possibly go wrong, Steve? So you see this thing as the culmination of years of effort, most of which was never attended to by Republicans, let alone counteracted. And here's the last and most, I think, frightening part of this is the Republicans themselves have served as part of a kind of control mechanism enabling the Democrats' steady progress and inroads, because they've kind of kept the American right, if you will, down until, with your help, Donald Trump came along and sort of disrupted everything, and that made him their mortal enemy, a man who was a terrible threat to everything that they had been working towards, the fundamental transformation of America. And he had to be stopped at all costs. And they have done everything, as you know, and as you've documented, to try to stop him. And now, ultimately, you have this coup, this latest version of the coup.
Frank's the new site with Kevin Freeman and others is Every Legal Vote. We're going to get more into that. We're going to have it up every day and talk about that. Breaking news quickly. Greg Mann's talking about this next segment. Pennsylvania lawmakers have joined now demanding a bipartisan audit of this election right now. We'll get into the details of that. Hopefully that's of all the ballots, these illegal ballots. But when it says bipartisan, I always get concerned. Frank, you're a national security expert. Brennan, the president he's been, many people like ourselves believe he ought to do a massive declassification of a lot of this stuff regarding a lot of things that have gone on in the last couple of years. Brennan went on TV the other night and I think essentially said the president either should be arrested or should be, restricted from doing that, even though he's commander in chief and he's starting his second term early. What do you say about this? We got about a minute and a half. What's your issues? And they're trying to blame, we're going to have another 9/11 because he has not relented here and still going to close his victory. What's your sense of where we stand from a national security and intelligence point of view right now?
Well, very quickly, John Brennan, I believe, is a traitor to his country. He used his Central Intelligence Agency as a weapon in the effort to take down Donald Trump, as you all know. More to the point, he has, I think, been associated with, as have the Democrats more generally, and certainly Joe Biden, with a practice of treating our enemies better than our friends. The enemies are delighted at the prospect that there may be a restoration of the ancien regime in Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, heavens knows. The Chinese communists most especially. We're in for a very dangerous period, I'm afraid, Steve, especially to the extent that many of those foreign enemies, the Chinese, the Russians, the Iranians, the Turks, have been actively involved in trying to subvert our elections and build up this fifth column that I was talking about earlier. They will benefit if we are at each other's throats, or worse, if the Democrats wind up taking the rest of us down, which I think is pretty clearly their intention, in keeping with their Marxist proclivities and their general view that it's a zero-sum game, as they say in the political science business. They have to win and we have to lose. So that's the thing we have to be mindful of here and resisting.
Frank, what's your Twitter handle? How do people get to you? You got about 15 seconds.
At Frank Gaffney is my Twitter handle. I believe it's also that at Parler as well.
Frank Gaffney, head of the Emeritus Center for Security Policy and also the founder of the Committee on the Present Danger China. Great patriot. Thanks for joining us today, Frank.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
I think Donald Trump has demonstrated over the last 4 years not just a total disrespect for the intelligence community, but a disregard for the intelligence itself. he has repeatedly called for the wholesale declassification of intelligence in order to further his own personal and political interests. He cares not about sources and methods. And so therefore, once he departs the White House, and he will bring with him knowledge as well as records that he could pull upon in order to try to, again, advance his own personal, political, or even financial interests.
Yeah, he is going to depart the White House, and it's going to be in January of 2025, after the finish of his second term. Mike Pompeo said that. So John Brennan, time to embrace the suck, okay? And everybody out there, all of our compatriots in the MAGA movement, book your suites now for the inauguration on the 20th of January 2021. I'm not saying it's going to be at the Capitol. That part, that's the one thing I'm uncertain about. Because I don't know how Antifa and certain elements of Black Lives Matter and the progressive left is going to take the meltdown when Donald J. Trump closes on his massive victory on November 3rd. Remember, we're the signal, not the noise. We did the pandemic when everybody started mocking us, including Dr. Fauci, who went on WABC on the Sunday the 23rd and said, nah, it's nothing to worry about. It's nothing going on over there. People got some colds, right? Nothing for America to worry about. Dr. Fauci. Another guy who should be fired, along with Ray. They should just go through and start calling these guys in and firing them, getting rid of them. I realize there's a little bit of a process with Fauci. You ought to start that process immediately with Dr. Collins and Dr. Fauci over NIH immediately, right after you fire Ray. No, but I think the president should start doing some big declassifications of, when they used to come in for the briefings, I told you, the one upset them, they do these briefings, and I go, why is this stuff classified? Right? Why is it classified? You read the Financial Times and a couple of defense publications, you can get more than what's in there. Most of it's a total waste of time and money, right? This is do it for control. It's all for control and power. Okay, we got some breaking news. Ticketmaster, I think, I haven't gotten to the article, just the news is breaking. Ticketmaster is going to require, this is the two-tier of societies coming, it's going to require a vaccine for you to go to your concerts, right? Or to have a test or something. We'll get to the details, but John Solomon's breaking it. Also in Pennsylvania, what is the reality, Greg Manns, up in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, which is going to be central to closing on President Trump's victory? A new announcement just came out from the state legislature.
So we're seeing some movement with the state legislature in Pennsylvania calling for a full audit before the election results can be certified.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, write it down. This is what the war room's about. What have we been talking about for weeks and weeks and weeks? Don't believe the mainstream media. First off, they're idiots. Number two, it's a propaganda machine, but they never quite even get the story right. It's all about certification. It's not about AP calling it. It's not about CNN calling it. It's not about Dana Bash throwing a hissy fit. It's not about Jake Tapper sitting there, taking his toys and throwing them out of the pram. No. It is a legal process about certification. And two events happened today. One in the Wolverine State, up there with in Michigan, right? In Michigan, they had a hearing on this lawsuit from the Great Lakes Justice Center, which does First Amendment. It does right to life. Dave Kallman, fantastic lawyer. He's got the receipts. He went and got affidavits for people. All the affidavits weren't there, so the hearing had a little bit of issue. But all the defense of Biden, what they're talking about is certification. Okay, certification. What are they talking about in Pennsylvania? The state legislators are getting involved in, what's that word? Certification. Write it down, ladies and gentlemen. A firestorm is coming, and it's coming over your Thanksgiving table, and it's going to burn all the way through the first couple of days of December. This is all about certifying a vote. And here's the tell, Biden campaign. They're antsy about the timing. Well, I don't know if we got the time. Do we have the time? Can we actually certify? You can't certify it. It's not certifiable. The votes don't have chain of custody. They don't have chain of title. They're not verifiable. You got this mess, this morass of these ballots in Pennsylvania. You got another morass in Michigan. You got another morass in Nevada. That doesn't include the two we're going to win, Arizona and Georgia, which are both messes too. Right? You can't certify it. If you can't certify it, you don't get to 270 electoral votes. If you don't do that, you blow through the safe harbor on December 8th. And if you don't do that, the electors don't go to the state capitals. And if you don't do that, it lands right on the master strategist Nancy Pelosi's lap in the first week of January.
Yeah, and Steve, when I was watching this hearing today, you could tell the Biden attorneys were visibly agitated having this discussion and making their point to the judge.
Come on. This is what we're talking about. We got them on the back heels. Have you heard any of that on CNN? You heard any of that on MSNBC? They don't want to address it. We got them right in the gun sights. This is exactly, that's a figure of speech. We got exactly, we're not putting any heads on those gun sights. No, we got exactly where this is going. They're not going to be able to certify this. They're nervous because they see what's coming out of Michigan. Okay, their problems. In the analytics, the big analytics suits are coming now where they're not going to be said, listen, you guys are supposed to be evidence-based, data-based, science-based. Jack Maxey, how many times have we had our nose rubbed into that and since we started doing this in mid-January, and you guys even started doing it until March, okay? You took February off. Oh, it's just a cold. We don't know what this thing is, right? Redonkulous. We're about the data. Yes,
it's
sir.
more ridiculous than that, redonkulous than that. You have Gavin Newsom out in California because, they've got to maintain this fear that everybody is going to pass away in a matter of moments from the COVID-19. So now he's announced that his state should prepare themselves for a twin-demic. This is what happens when you have the convergence of the pandemic with flu season. So, ladies and gentlemen, buy your extra 500 rolls of toilet.
I thought the flu went away. I know you got a lot. We got so much ground to cover. We're going to go back, but great report. I want to get more detail. Maybe even get Coleman on here. Michigan, we're fully engaged in, ladies and gentlemen. There's a state court fight and there's a federal court fight. And the federal court fight from the campaign is taking some of the affidavits from the state court. We'll get you all the details. Jump in here.
And then just 1 point for the timeline. The judge will make his ruling by noon on Friday.
Wow. That'll go up to the Supreme Court. I'm sure this whole thing's going to get appealed into the Supreme Court of Michigan. Okay. Brennan, Frank Gaffney is a man of few words, and he when he speaks, though, he speaks with power. He's not a friend of Brennan's, right? And you could tell that. Brennan out here has been, I think, disloyal to the country overall. What it turned out that he felt that the president was a Soviet operative or a Russian operative. He wouldn't even give him the straight skinny in the transition. So I don't want to hear about the whining from the Biden campaign, who hasn't even won. You're whining about the transition when you had the active participants in the Obama administration that said, Brennan said, I wouldn't give me any information. I didn't trust the guy. So I want to bring in now Sam Faddis. Jack, you take over here. Sam Faddis, former CIA, wrote a book that you've got to read, Decline and Fall of the Central Intelligence Agency, back about 10 years ago. It's still the magnum opus of what went wrong with the agency. He's a career CIA operative and officer. And Jack, you guys got a lot to talk about.
I also will plug this book, Beyond Repair. And one of the things that makes it so great, people out there, you love history, is that it follows the history of how intelligence is supposed to operate and how it went awry. So Sam is a great patriot and a great asset to this country and this movement. But Sam has had his hands on the hard drive. Sam and I have debriefed a couple people over this thing. And we have Brennan here talking about the President of the United States as a potential security risk. And we've also talked about the coordination of the mainstream media. All of this is on the heels of an article yesterday. An ex-President Trump could disclose the secrets he learned while in office. Current and former officials fear. This in the Washington Post. Of the usual suspects, sources that cannot be named. But they say that the president is a classic counterintelligence risk. What do you have to say about some of this, Sam? We'd love to hear you talk to the subject. Let me shut up for a moment.
Yeah, this is like the definition of priceless, isn't it? This is a guy, Brennan, who staged an attempted coup to depose a sitting president who's now worried about our national security. Of course, what he's really concerned about is that the president might actually tell the American people the things they still haven't heard, the proof, the evidence of the fact that this really was a coup, and everybody that was involved. And meanwhile, while we're terrified about the president being a security risk, the same people are pushing to have Joe Biden sit down in the Oval Office, who may very well have been co-opted by, recruited by Chinese intelligence, a real life, as crazy as it sounds, Manchurian candidate. But no, the concern that Mr. Brennan has is that the president might actually declassify a bunch of stuff that shouldn't be classified in the first place and tell the American people the truth.
Now, when you say the truth, Sam, can you give us a little taste of that? We've got a minute left. Steve, you want to?
Yeah, I'll tell you. Why don't we hold Sam over?
Yeah, I agree.
We've cleared out some time. We got to get to this. We're going to have breaking news from Georgia. We're going to have breaking news from Arizona. We've got the Real America Voice correspondent Ben out and doing a live interview. We got Boris Johnson. We got Boris Epstein. We're going to have other live reports, I think, from Michigan. We got a lot to cram in here, but we got to deal with this Brennan situation about the president. We're going to take a short commercial break. Sam Faddis, a career CIA officer, is going to be back with Jack Maxey. We're going to work through this because the accusations going on and what we are advocating, the President of the United States has got a bonus period. He's got a bonus 80 for his second term. Let's use them. Let's start doing some firings. Let's start clearing out some stuff. Let's start declassifying. Let's get to work. Let's get things done. Let's go down and build some wall. How about that?
Transition to the second term.
Listen to Pompeo. Back in a moment.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
We've got breaking news we're going to get to in a moment from the courtroom in Michigan. Greg Mann's going to give us an update. We got Georgia. We got Arizona. We're going to have Pennsylvania. We're going to get to all of it. Both numbers and legal strategy, victories. Remember, victory begets victory. I'm getting tired of winning. I'm getting tired of winning. It's happening. Okay, I want to turn now to this is what the president's got to do. President's got to step up. He's got to start doing rallies or what I call partners discussions. Go around and talk to your partners, right? The 71 million people that voted for you. Go talk to your partners. But then for the whole country, continue to govern. Drop the hammer. You're the president. You're going to be the president. We get an extra 80 bonus days, right? Let's just use them. Mike Pence is going on, he's going down to Florida. That's okay. Mike needs a couple of days off, but you start, first off, just start declassifying stuff. Let's have Brennan's head blow up on the Steve Colbert Show. I want to turn back now to Jack Maxey and Sam Faddis from the Central Intelligence Agency.
When we left off, we were talking about John Brennan and his accusations that the president is a likely security risk in future and a security risk today. And Sam was just starting to cover the idea that the Biden family is probably an asset already of Chinese Communist intelligence, and that John Brennan's greatest fear is that his own complicity in many of the failures of our national intelligence over the last decade will be uncovered. So, Sam, back to you, mate.
Well, I mean, to pick up where I left off, I think the first thing that Brennan's concerned about is this. He was up to his eyeballs in what was, no kidding, an attempted coup against this president, crossfire hurricane, and the whole Russiagate nonsense. He has stated clearly that he stood up what he calls a fusion cell in CIA headquarters, which is, that's terminology is neither here nor there, but was effectively the nerve center for this entire operation, which was run out of there by him and
our people love terminology. What does fusion cell mean, and what is it used for?
Well, what he really ought to refer to it as is a counterintelligence working group, and the reason why that's significant is because once you classify this as a counterintelligence matter, you can now follow all sorts of protocols within the intelligence community which deny other people access. If you're hunting for a mole in CIA, you can go out and do all kinds of things. And people don't expect you to explain why you're tasking them because they understand that that information cannot be disseminated broadly. It gives you a power to move within the bureaucracy in a way that you can remain undetected. And you can do things, if you are so inclined, like this, things that are purely illegal and are directed against the President of the United States. That's what he's talking about when he calls it a fusion cell. He's talking about setting up a group to run this whole coup effort out of CIA headquarters.
So what do you think the president should do, Sam? He's got, no matter what, he's got 70, 80 days here. I mean, I think he should just prepare the soil for spring planting. But in general, when it comes to declassification, you got the president's here, you're sitting in the Oval Office. What should he start doing today?
Look, I think what he has to do is he has to break completely free of the normal process for declassification, because the bureaucracy, the deep state, is slow rolling him, has been doing that for probably years by this point, and their intention is to drag their feet until he leaves office, at which time all of this will be buried and will never see the light of day. So he's got to smash that process. What's one solution? Tell the director of Central Intelligence to print off hard copy all of the information she's supposedly reviewing and deliver it to his desk tomorrow morning, because he's the ultimate declassification authority. And from that point on, he will decide unilaterally what gets released.
I think this is the strong measure, Steve, and I think he really needs to take
I
the
agree.
advice.
Okay, Sam, because they watch your show later in the day and they take notes during one or different. Be specific. If you're sitting there, tell him exactly the verticals right now you think you ought to declassify.
There will be a cryptonym or a code name, to use more general terms, which refers to whatever operation this was called within CIA. Whatever Brennan created will have a crypt, will have a code name, and there will be traffic and documentation. Traffic, by that I mean the messages between headquarters and field stations and so forth. All of that will be contained within the records of that operation. Let's start there. Every piece of message traffic, every document generated in the course of that operation that Brennan initiated, delivered to the Oval Office and put on the desk of the President of the United States tomorrow morning. I'm done waiting.
Okay, hang on a second. What Brennan's saying is the president's a barbarian. He doesn't care about sources and methods, and he would jeopardize all types of things. What does Brennan mean by sources and methods, and why is he using that as the bar to kind of chop block Trump?
Right. So sources and methods, sources would mean the actual people we're talking to, clandestine assets of CIA. Methods would be the classified methods by which those people are met. The methods we use in the field to remain undetected, the spycraft we use. And this is standard speak that, yes, of course, we don't want to compromise that. That's correct. But what he's using this as an excuse. He's hiding behind this. By the way, John Brennan wouldn't know a source or a method if he bumped into it in the dark. I mean, this is a man who never went in the field, never met an asset.
As a matter of fact, I want to mention this because when we won in 2016 and Mike Pompeo came in, the big controversy was about Brennan's new organizational structure, because structure and strategy go hand in hand for the CIA. He was one of these embittered analysts who, quite frankly, were jealous of the Sam Faddis of the world. He did a merger in which you basically had the analysts and the operatives all kind of work together, and went from House of Lords and House of Commons to the analysts being like him being powerful. And we had heard that the CIA absolutely hated it. It was totally inefficient. It was like putting investment bankers and traders together in an investment bank. They hated it. They wanted to unwind it. And Mike Pompeo, after spending about 3 or 4 weeks over there, came back and sat down and said, look, it'd just be they've spent so much time. This was Brennan's big thing. Is that what you're talking about? He really has no field experience. He's just kind of been a research guy. He's like a librarian.
Yeah, look, the John Brennans of the world would not really care if all the field stations in the world went away tomorrow, right? They'd be just as happy to run a headquarters and have meetings and produce PowerPoint presentations and spend all their time on politics. That structure should have been broken. All respect to Secretary Pompeo. That was a bad call. You needed to break that and reverse it. We need to go 180 degrees the other direction. And there are a lot of good people at the agency, but bottom line is you need to go in there and clean house, and you need to fire a significant number of senior folks who climbed the ladder under Brennan, and they are proteges of his.
Now, Sam, here's a question for you. You know that there are a lot of great patriots in there. You worked with them. You risked your life in the field with these people. What do you think would be the reaction of these individuals inside the intelligence agencies if Donald Trump were to go in there with a broad axe and start swinging it? Oops,
Yeah, you know
sorry, didn't mean to use that metaphor.
People, I
Figure of
think
speech. Figure of speech alert. Figure of
you
speech.
guys think it's only a figure of speech. I take it only that way. I think there'd be people cheering in the hallways, in the cafeteria. They would be standing on top of chairs and saying, "Thank you for the love of God. I've been waiting for years for you let us get to work and to clear out the dead wood." That's what I think would happen.
Well, Donald Trump, if you're listening, then you owe it to those brave patriots out there to do the right thing and clean up that house so that they can get to work for the American people.
Sam, we got to jump. How can people get to your Twitter account, and how to get to Ann Magazine, which is a site you got to go to? It's a must read. Can you get us there? How do you do that?
At Twitter, I'm at Real Sam Faddis, and it's AND Magazine at andmagazine.com.
As if there could be a fake Sam Faddis. Okay, Sam. Thank you very much. Thank you for taking time to come on
Thanks,
today.
guys.
Thanks, Sam.
There's tons of, when Trump went out there on that Saturday, the first full day at work, it was incredible. The response he got from the workers out there, the lower echelons, was just pure love. Okay, I want to go to Greg Manns. In Pennsylvania, what is happening? Looks like this is a tectonic plate shift.
Yeah, it's something that we've been calling for a while here, or at least you guys have, and me since yesterday. But it's nice to see the state legislature really being out there on the record right now. Hopefully, there's a time
saying what the state legislature is saying they want to audit this. They want to audit
an audit,
which is different than a recount. They want to audit. They want to find out where these ballots came from. Why this? They want to audit of this of the process and the results.
Yep, exactly. So that's similar to what's going on
in
Michigan.
But in Michigan, they're doing it through the courts. Here's the legislative friends that don't take this the wrong way, because we love you. And you've been in Harrisonburg politics as long as you've been in D.C. politics. I haven't seen a lot of profiles and courage in the legislature. Now, I'm sure we're going to see it as the global fickle finger of fate comes down to them, and they're now going to be on global TV, and everything they say, they're going to have CNN out there with a microphone chasing them down the street. Are these people prepared for the heat that's going to come down on them now they're stepping forward?
So based on my experience and what I'm seeing out there and talking to my contacts right now on the ground, I'm more confident in the House, the state House, moving forward with more force than the state Senate. So that's something to keep an eye on as we progress.
Hang on, but I'll take one house at a time. Are you actually saying you're seeing guys in the House are saying, hey, we're going to have to get involved here?
Yep, exactly. And one of them is Dawn Kiefer from the central part of the state. She was part of a press conference yesterday. And
I saw her.
She did a great job.
She's a firebrand.
Yep.
Is she going to take the leadership here?
It looks like she's stepping into it, and Brian Cutler was elected speaker again, so we'll see how he riles all the troops up going forward too.
This is and you believe it's not just the Republican Party. They realize this because the headline says bipartisan. We're going to get the story does not deliver the headline, but you're going to do some research on that.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to see if there's movement for real bipartisan, because Democrats in Pennsylvania, especially in the Pittsburgh area, the Scranton area, they realize that their electorate will hold them accountable in 2022 if they're not on board now.
Is Shapiro, by the way, Torricelli got the wingman of Shapiro got beat, but Shapiro wants to be governor and then he wants to be president. He sees this delivering Pennsylvania to Biden is his ticket to the bigs.
Yeah, exactly. And then on that same point we talked about the statewide impact of Biden-only votes and then Torricelli going down. Frank Dermody, who is the leader for the Democrats in the state house, also lost. So from all the way at the bottom, who's been in office since I believe it's 1991, also did not eke out a win.
I want to see an analysis of that tomorrow, because this is the two tells, right? There's no chance that happened. Come on. this thing stinks to high heaven in Pennsylvania, right? Now you're going to start to see some profiles in courage. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, write it down. Certification. There's a firestorm coming, right? CNN's not telling you about it. MSNBC's not telling you about it. But I tell you where you can hear it. You can hear it in state court in Michigan, where Biden's lawyers are getting a little nervous. We don't have enough time. We can't have can we have a process and a results audit? Can we do this? Can we have a certification? It's all coming. Victory begets victory, whether it's in Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania. We're going to return in just a minute.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Remembrance Day in the United Kingdom. That's why they wear the poppies, the red poppies. It's Veterans Day here in the United States, and it's Armistice Day throughout the world. The 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month is when the guns went silent. The guns of August finally went silent on a horrific slaughter, ended the Victorian age and kicked off the bloodiest century in mankind's history. I think 250 million people died when you summed it all up between August 1914 and 1989, the Berlin Wall collapsing, because it was essentially one continuous struggle for freedom. We got some unfinished work of the 20th century. That's the Chinese Communist Party, but we'll save that for another time. But Jack, we had Flanders Field. We had a great commemoration, but the Greeks actually have because our lineage is Greece and Rome in Jerusalem in the Judeo-Christian West. What did Sophocles? Is it Sophocles that told us?
But it's the inscription, the Greek inscription that was there at the Battle of Thermopylae to let people know what had occurred there. It says, "Stranger, go tell the Spartans we died here, obedient to their commands." And I think what Steve is trying to reference is, we talked about in Flanders Field, a poem written by Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae of the Canadian Expeditionary Forces, who was killed in the summer before the end of the war. And it goes like this: "In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly. Scarce heard amid the guns below, we are the dead short days ago. We lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields."
If you've ever been to the Western Front and see it today, it's you can't understand how horrific it was back a while ago. We're talking about profiles and courage, and obviously in a very different level, but it still takes courage. Remember, Churchill. What did Churchill say? Courage is the most important of all the virtues, because it is upon courage that all the other virtues rest. In Harrisburg, we're starting to see some profiles in courage, and we're going to have to. It's going to take courage. They're trying to, as Dr. Lee Ming Yan from Hong Kong University says, the CCP tries to disappear you. They try to disappear you. That's what's happening here. They're trying to disappear you, right? They're trying to disappear you off of social media, off of all of it.
And we've watched this, Steve, it seems to me, over several decades, a kind of disappearance of our heritage, our culture. We don't teach our children to memorize the preamble to the Declaration anymore. All these things that were taken for granted for generations and generations of Americans are denied to our youth today. And I think that is by design, because I don't think anybody brought up with a patriotic education could follow some of the past that we see youth doing today.
That's what you were reading to me. It was Horatius at the Gate. We'll do that.
Oh, okay.
We're going to do that.
off the cuff.
Well, hang on. We'll do that. That's at Yale. We'll do that in the next hour. I want to bring in now a veteran, Sergeant Cory Mills, wrote an incredible piece, Thinking the American Thinker. American Greatness. Chris Buskirk and the team out there. Fabulous website, fabulous magazine. Building a new and less cowardly Republican Party. Sergeant Mills, what did you mean by that? What do you mean less cowardly? What are you talking about?
Well, Steve, first off, I'm honored to be with you guys in the War Room. Thanks so much for having me. I really couldn't be any more clear. I mean, as Dylan Thomas says, we've got certain Republicans who want to go gently into that good night. Meanwhile, there's a lot of patriots who feel very differently about this. We also need to recall that the Republican Party, what does it really mean to be a Republican? Well, it's a repository. It's a repository for the conservative ideals. And if they're not going to uphold and they're not going to protect and preserve those conservative ideals, then the cowards who won't fight today should not be with us tomorrow.
Do you see that? Do you think that this fight to close out our victory on the 3rd, do you think this is a defining moment, not just for the Republican Party, but also for the Trump movement, for the populist nationalist movement, for conservatism? Do you think this is a defining moment we have here right now?
I think it's an absolutely defining moment. And again, keep in mind, a lot of the Republicans who have been elected in all the seats that we've taken in the House, as well as for being able to hold the 50, and I believe that we have more than 50 seats in the Senate, that's all on the back of the president's conservative movement. That's all off of that re-energized base that, Hillary Clinton and the Democrats called the deplorables, the ones who cling to their guns and Bibles. I think that, you see all those people who came with such vigor and energy, and, they wanted to act as if they were that man in the arena, as I refer to in my article. But in reality, now that they're being challenged, now that they're being pressed, now that it's time for them to rise to the challenge, they are those cold and timid souls who know not nor defeat nor victory.
Cory, we got about a minute and a half. Walk through, how would you do it? For our audience, they're action-oriented, they want to know what to do. What would you tell our audience is the action they should be taking today to help to rebuild this?
First thing is first, hold your representatives accountable. We need to understand that it's not the actual representatives who have the power, it is the constituency. These representatives are there to represent us as the American people. And if our voices are not being heard, if our conservative ideals are not being protected, if our Constitution is not being regarded as the highest and most sacred document, and they don't feel that it's important to go forward and voice that, it's our time to cast our votes and to ensure that our votes are cast legally and that they're counted.
Do you think this fight right now over President Trump trying to close his victory, do you think it's bigger than Trump? Do you think it actually deals directly with the Constitution and us as a constitutional republic?
As a constitutionalist, I think 100% that this is bigger than just the president. This is bigger than just the two-party system. We have to start looking at our history. We have to look at the 1864 plot for mail-in ballots against the re-election of Lincoln that Orville Wood uncovered. We have to start looking at how, hammer and scorecard has played a factor into the counting in these electoral systems. We have to look at the fact that if we don't do anything now, what the Democratic Party or what the socialists will come forward in these Marxist movements and say, 71 million Republicans voted, 75 million Democrats voted, largest turnout in American history. That means that it was voter suppression, and we need to do mail-in ballots for every election and make that part of the rule. That's what's at risk right here, is a change in our Constitution, attack on our Electoral College. This is bigger than just one presidential fight. This is about America maintaining its constitutionality.
Cory, how do people get to give us your Twitter handle and how they get to you? Your article on American Greatness is fantastic. Chris Buskirk and the guys doing a great job. How do they get to you?
So Cory, Cory, Mills, MILLS _ Pacem, PACEM.
Cory Mills, Sergeant Cory Mills, thank you. Good Veterans Day, sir.
Steve, thank you so much.
Okay, next hour, Amy Kramer about the rally in Washington, D.C. this week. John Fredericks, live report from Georgia. We're going to go to Arizona. We're going to go to Michigan. All next hour on War Room Pandemic.